Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. And it's Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And this week, like all the others, was absolutely insane. We're once again talking about Christian Dior and Nascar. They're both on the radar again after last week. Not to mention the Dollar Tree, Audi, IBM put out an amazing breach report. And of course, basically, we had to have the military called in on a data breach. That's fun, but we're going to talk about all of that. And first, thank you very much to Harry Stanton, Gail Whitaker, Sanders Sleitnerink, and Jacqueline Wolf for sending me a chunk of this past week. It always helps me out. Please keep sending those tips my way. And with that, let's dive in to Wood River Health. Now, they're in southwestern Rhode Island, southeastern Connecticut, and they offer medical, dental, and social services. And they are telling 54,926 individuals that they caught up in a breach basically last year, September of 2024. So way to go, guys, 11 months. And essentially, names and social security numbers were involved. So heads up there. Moving on, let's head on over to New York City and talk about their housing lottery. If you're an applicant or have been an applicant in the housing lottery system in New York City, heads up, because hundreds of thousands of applications dating back literally years are now publicly viewable online, including salaries, home addresses, phone numbers, and in some cases, social security numbers. They've been made aware and have shut that down. Moving on. Central Maine Healthcare, an unauthorized party, gained access to their network on March 19th and was discovered on June 1st of this year. Names, birth dates, and diagnosis information were all apparently accessed. So heads up, Central Maine Healthcare patients. And with that, let's do our mini segment simply entitled, If You Just Spent Money on Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued, You Wouldn't Be Losing Your Reputation, and we sure as heck wouldn't be talking about you right now. And with that, let's start with HCA Healthcare. They just agreed to settle class action claims, basically from their 2023 data breach that had patient information involved, and class members get free credit monitoring and credit bureau reporting as well. So congratulations, guys, you get the standard. Moving on, Arissa Health. They just agreed to a $1.9 million class action settlement to resolve claims on their 2024 data breach. And here we go. I don't have much more information on that, but heads up, Arissa Health patients and probably employees. Moving on, Nascar. I literally just talked about Nascar last week, and now they are facing federal lawsuits, including one in Florida after attackers ran off with more than 100 people's names and social security numbers. That's according to filings, and that's how fast these things are moving. I talked about their breach last week, and literally within the 7-day span, they're already getting sued multiple times. Moving on, Community Care Alliance. They agreed to a $1.09 million settlement for their class action in their 2024 data breach. I don't have much more than that, but other than that, Community Care Alliance patients and employees, heads up. And with that, let's head north of the border, because everybody sues everybody everywhere, and talk about Audi's Canada division. So, a Quebec court has approved a settlement in the class action lawsuit against Audi Canada that had personal information, specifically customers' personal information. So, this settlement was authorized in the Superior Court of Quebec in May and resolves allegations that the automaker basically had a whole bunch of prospective clients and existing clients hit within that province. Audi has denied any wrongdoing, and those allegations were not proven in court, and Audi agreed to pay $240,000 Canadian to affected customers. And if you are in Quebec, you're a Quebecois, you have between July 28th, so a couple days ago, through October 27th to submit your claim. Go get paid. And with that, those are who's basically getting sued today. If they had just spent money on cybersecurity, they wouldn't be getting sued. They wouldn't be having their reputation ruined. And you know, we sure as heck wouldn't be talking about them right now. Moving back to data breaches. Let's talk about Mid-Florida Primary Care. On July 29th, basically they announced a data breach, and that basically started on January 23rd of this year, and here we go. Apparently they discovered it then, but November of 29th of last year through December 11th is when the attacker was in. We're talking names, addresses, dates of birth, email addresses, social security, driver's license, health insurance, medical information like diagnosis, treatment information, etc., were all cut up. So, Mid-Florida Primary Care, which I have to imagine is in mid-Florida, midway between Miami and Jacksonville, I'm guessing. Best of luck to you. Moving on, BYU Pathway Worldwide. This is a Utah nonprofit organization that offers online educational programs in partnership with BYU Idaho, not the original Utah, and Ensign College. BYU is Brigham Young University, originally founded in Utah, Salt Lake City. So recently, they detected unauthorized network access, potentially involving personal information and data of its students. This was discovered on June 24th of this year, and essentially a vendor compromise on June 27th is what happened here. I do not know that vendor, but we're talking names, social security numbers, national IDs, account IDs, contact details, gender, marital status, religious affiliation, age, and records of educational courses. So heads up to you, if you are getting an online degree from BYU Idaho or Ensign College, you might want to check in. Moving on, let's talk about Christian Dior. Again, if you recall, it's Christian Dior, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy, etc., etc. A whole bunch of luxury brands. They've been disclosing, it seems like every week in one country after the other. I've done South Korea, other Asian countries. I know I've done European countries. I think even South American countries. Well, today it's the United States. They're declaring for the U.S. So if you are shopping online in the United States at Dior or any one of the Dior-owned properties, you're going to want to check in. And I'm pretty sure I'll be talking next week about Canada or someone because they keep on declaring. Moving on. Nationwide Recovery Services. I talk about these guys off and on for probably the last 6 months to a year or so because they continue to basically have their clients declare data breaches, and this week is no different. Self-regional healthcare for 27,084 individuals. I do not know where self-region is, but there you go. Moving on. Let's head on over to France and c'est la vie because state-owned warship builder Naval Group got hit. So here we are, investigating a cyber attack after 1 terabyte of data was allegedly stolen by an attacker and leaked online. And the company characterized this as a quote-unquote destabilization attempt and a quote-unquote reputational attack, to which it has responded by filing a complaint to protect its clients' data. The attackers basically have it, and they've exfiltrated it out of your country. I don't know how you're protecting that data. But despite the gravity of the claims, the company says that there are no signs of an IT systems breach, and their operations haven't been impacted. So what does that mean? Basically, did somebody get in and they just haven't noticed it? Was there a copy somewhere? Maybe they copied out a backup? We don't know. But obviously, we are going to keep an eye on Naval Group because the French Navy depends on them. Moving on, let's talk about Pi-hole. You might have heard of them. They're a popular network-level ad blocker that you can deploy in your network. Give yourself some satisfaction on not seeing those ads wherever you go. Anywho, they just disclosed that donor names and email addresses were exposed to a security vulnerability in their WordPress donation public plugin. So Pi-hole added no donor financial information was compromised. That's handled by Stripe and PayPal. Pi-hole itself, the software that you might be deploying and using, is not affected in this. It's purely if you donated. So if anything, this proves that even though they give Pi-hole away for free, people are throwing them a couple of bucks and unfortunately getting exposed as a result. So best of luck, Pi-hole customers, or rather consumers. Moving on, Dollar Tree, the dirt cheap franchise all over the United States, and I'm guessing other countries as well. Attackers are claiming to have breached Dollar Tree and stole sensitive files, but the discount retail giant is saying they've never suffered a cyber attack, and basically the data that is being sent around the dark web really doesn't belong to them. So here's what's happening. A ransomware gang known as Inc. Ransom recently added Dollar Tree to their leak site, and they claim to have stolen 1.2 terabytes of sensitive and personal information, threatening to release it unless the ransom is paid. So the group provided a sample of the stolen data, as they always do on leak sites, including passport scans, and also quoted a Dollar Tree press release in which it announced the acquisition of 99 Cents Only's leases. 99 Cents Only apparently is a competitor to Dollar Tree, and Dollar Tree was acquiring at least some aspects of them. And so there's the rub. Dollar Tree says the data actually belongs to 99 Cents Only, which is an entirely different discount shopping chain, even though Dollar Tree is in the process of acquiring them or has acquired them or something like that. So it looks like Inc. Ransomware may have basically just kind of screwed up and given the wrong company. This does happen. I've had basically clients be alerted that they're breached in the dark web, and the gangs reach out only to find out that there's a company with the same name on the other side of the planet. That's the one that got hit. Moving on, I want to give you an update on Ingram Micro. That's the giant tech distributor The SafePay ransomware gang has now publicly taken credit for this cyber attack and threatened to publish 3.5 terabytes of data allegedly stolen from the technology distributor. So heads up, Ingram Micro customers and employees. Moving on, let's head on over to Ohio and talk about Marysville School District, because current and former students at these schools have started receiving notification letters about a cybersecurity breach. Now, the interesting part is these letters didn't come from somewhere in Ohio. They came from a P.O. box on the West Coast, so people weren't believing the actual letters. But apparently these are legitimate, and they state that basically some kind of threat actor accessed the district's network at various times between October 5th through the 26th of last year. So heads up, Marysville school students, etc., etc. If you got one of those letters, it's probably legit. Moving on, Operation PAR, P-A-R. On June 10th, they became aware of a security incident. I don't have much more beyond names, social security numbers, dates of birth, addresses, and health insurance information. So if you have anything to do with Operation PAR for parring needs, I don't know, check in. Moving on, Tab Inc., that's Tab with 2 B's, on October 14th of last year, they became aware of an incident, basically in the database they used to store background check data on behalf of their clients. So names and social security numbers, are in there. That's fun. So heads up if you've ever had a background check by Tab Inc. Moving on, People Check. Let's just keep on rolling with identity theft here, right? Threat actors gain access using compromised login credentials, and you would basically think that, yes, everything that you would think of in a background check or a people check would be their name, email, date of birth, phone number, birth city, social security number, gender, mother's name, et cetera, et cetera. That's obviously a huge issue. And by virtue of People Check, one of their clients has now had to basically divulge that they are part of this as a supply chain breach, and that company is With Intelligence. So hopefully you're not with intelligence, I guess, at the moment. Moving on. New American Funding. They recently disclosed they suffered a data breach that compromised the sensitive, personal, and protected data of multiple individuals. Names, address, social security, dates of birth, financial account information, and other personal financial information was involved in New American Funding. So if you're getting your funding from New American, you know what to do. Moving on, let's head on back to good old France and talk about their national employment agency, France Travail. So they confirmed they suffered a data breach that may have affected 340,000 French job seekers. We are talking full names, postal and email addresses, phone numbers, France Travail identifiers, and job seeker status. So heads up if you're looking for work in France. Moving on. Berkeley University. This is an interesting one that was posted on LinkedIn, so I'm still looking at this, but a full university database allegedly tied to Berkeley, USA has been leaked and is circulating in the dark web. So the data being distributed in both SQL and CSV formats essentially has access credentials as well, and we are talking about exposed records such as student records, seminar and course information, teacher profiles, username with hashed passwords. I do not know the level of hash. Could be MD5 and very easy to break. Could be SHA-2 and a lot harder. Payment and financial transaction data and more. So I'm keeping an eye on this one to see if this is actually fully legit. It seems like it is. So best of luck, Berkeley. Moving on, we have 2 finalies for you today. And this one is kind of a rare one. We're going to St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a fun little town if you've ever been to the Twin Cities. Anyway, basically, Minnesota's governor, Tim Walz, on this past Tuesday, activated the state's National Guard to help respond to a cyber attack on St. Paul, which is the capital of Minnesota. Now, according to an announcement by Walz's office, the National Guard's help was needed because of an ongoing cyber attack against St. Paul, and this attack was larger and more complex than the city staff was able to handle. In other words, they were overwhelming the IT and cybersecurity staff, the actual humans doing the work in the municipality. So, at a press conference that past Tuesday, St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter said that the city noticed quote-unquote suspicious activity early that Friday, so a few days before that. Obviously, they started an investigation. Mayor Carter also said, and I quote, "We now know this was not a system glitch or technical error. This was a deliberate, coordinated digital attack carried out by a sophisticated external actor intentionally and criminally targeting our city's information infrastructure," end quote. Now, Mayor Carter, who had issued an emergency declaration, said the city is using its emergency operations center to run a, quote, "whole of government response," end quote, which includes the assistance of 2 private cybersecurity firms, along with state and federal law enforcement agencies. And so Governor Walz, in a statement as well on Tuesday said, and I quote, "We are committed to working alongside the city of St. Paul to restore cybersecurity as quickly as possible. The Minnesota National Guard's cyber forces will collaborate with city, state, and federal officials to resolve the situation and mitigate lasting impacts. Above all, we are committed to protecting the safety and security of the people of St. Paul," end quote. So, Mayor Carter also said the cyber attack shut down Wi-Fi access in city buildings, disrupted city library collections management systems, suspended access to a wide range, quote unquote, of city applications. 911, though, 911, if you call 911, is operating normally, as that is a separate system apparently outside of this attack. So, St. Paul Chief Information Officer Jamie Waskalis, who is leading the response to the cyber attack, said during a press conference that Tuesday as well that teams are, quote, "working around the clock to understand the full scope and full scope of the situation and our plan for restoration of services," end quote. The city also has a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, Stephanie Horvath, and she said during the press conference that the city, quote, took defensive measures to limit the attack's reach, basically, and that it's only affecting city systems. Quote, "It's been a long 24 hours, as you can imagine," end quote. And Stephanie, I feel you, girl. It is so difficult in incident response, whether it's a small company, a massive company, a city, a government, whatever it is. It's all hands on deck. There's a lot of uncertainty as you're trying to identify, contain, and eradicate while preserving evidence of this. And so I feel for the St. Paul staff. But this is one of those things that we see, or rather we're starting to see kind of grow. Governors are increasingly calling in their National Guard units. Remember, National Guards by state, they're calling in these units to support cyber responses. So one 2021 report showed that governors had made such calls for help more than 40 times since 2018, and that's a 3-year span. And a lot of people don't realize this, but that's one of the missions of the National Guard. Obviously, it's not just to, let's say, defend or help you during a hurricane or whatever. They are also helping on cyber operations side. And quite frankly, I'm glad they're there. And I hope they keep expanding those programs because, to the point of, St. Paul, when you have something that wide, it's a massive, massive attack. I remember when Kaseya, who is basically a product favorite of a lot of IT companies for management, they had their system hit, and by virtue of that, the system started locking out all of these IT providers' customers. And so I actually got a frantic call that week when all of this happened from a managed service provider in Florida asking if I could help. Can you decrypt this? Can we get through this? Because the owner of that did not have enough staff for their 300 clients all simultaneously that were locked out. They went out. They went out of business. This is a huge issue. And so I'm really glad that when these things strike, that we do have the National Guards there and that we've got governors, and I don't care who the governor is, Republican, Democrat, living on the moon, they're using them. And I think that's a good sign. So here we are. Hopefully we're not going to have bigger cyber attacks than this. I know we will, but I'm hoping we won't. And the other finally I've got for you this week actually comes from IBM. Every year they do a cost of a data breach report, and I absolutely love it and download it every single year. And the numbers this year, they're interesting. And we're throwing AI now into the mix in a way that we just haven't in previous years. So let's go through some of these numbers because I think you'll find them as interesting as I do. The global average for a cost of a breach declined for the first time in 5 years, lowering to $4.44 million US. That's according to IBM's report. But the average US cost rose to a record 10.22 million. Remember, they're going across the world and averaging it 4.44 million, but here in the United States, we're averaging 10.22 million, 13% for the record of organizations reported breaches of AI models or applications. And of those compromised, 97% involved AI systems that lacked proper access controls. This is a huge, huge issue. Not to mention, basically, a data leak of intellectual property theft, which you could consider a data breach, meaning, oh, I'm going to feed my intellectual property into ChatGPT to solve a problem, and ChatGPT solves the problem, but now you're giving away your intellectual property. This happened to Samsung to the tune of tens of millions of dollars when their engineers did exactly that with, I believe it was actually ChatGPT. So, despite the rising risk, 63% of breached organizations either don't have an AI governance policy or are still developing one. AI acceptable use policies are beyond important, not to mention filtering out artificial intelligence. And if you're going to use it, then filtering out all AI except the one you're going to use, and then slapping training and controls around your people are so unbelievably important. So among those that do have an AI governance policy in place, only 34% perform regular audits to detect unauthorized AI use, which ultimately will drive up breach costs. IBM stated basically that exact phrase in their report. So here are some of the numbers. These are absolutely crazy. 1 in 6 is the number of breaches involving AI-driven attacks now. Think about that. It's a little less than 20%, but it's continuing to grow. The global cost of a data breach, basically the ranking around the world, is interesting. The United States is ranked at number 1. Our costs have gone up. The Middle East as a region is number 2. They've gone down. Benelux, which is a political economic union between 3 neighboring countries in Western Europe, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, actually rank at number 3. It's a lot of money in that area. They are up in terms of cost of data breach. Number 4 is Canada. The Great White North is also up in cost. The United Kingdom is at 5, and they are down in cost, as is number 6 Germany. Latin America, all of Latin America, is number 7. France at number 8. The Asian makeup of basically Southeast Asia is also now up in data breach at number 9. Japan is number 10. They are down, and Italy is also down at number 11, as is South Korea 12, Australia 13. India is up at 14. South Africa is down at 15. And finally, Brazil pretty much stayed even. So there you go. Those are the top 16 countries that are getting data breached. The most expensive industries around the world for these data breaches, in other words, those industries that are paying the most, are, starting from the top, healthcare, financial, industrial, energy, the tech sector, pharma, services industries. Entertainment is also in there, as well as is media. Rounding up the top 10 is then hospitality. So initial attack vectors are basically what you would expect. Phishing remains number 1, followed by, and this is interesting because I think my breaches of the week proves it, supply chain and third-party breaches are number 2. In other words, I didn't get breached as a company, but I outsourced my HR, my payroll, my this, my that. They got breached, and now I have to declare because of their poor service. Number 3 was interesting, which is actually denial of service, meaning flooding the zone with bandwidth to basically lock up equipment so nobody can get to your website, et cetera, et cetera. That was coming in at number 3, which I actually thought was really interesting. I wasn't expecting that as well. 51% of breaches are caused by a malicious or criminal attack. 26% of breaches are caused by human error. Glug, 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 forgot to patch the server, somebody gets in. 23% are straight up IT failure. They just fail to do something. Maybe they don't have the manpower, whatever it is, but IT failure. And recovery times are absolutely insane as well. 26% of companies are saying it is more than 150 days to fully recover. That's how long it's taking them. 24% say it's between 126 and 150 days. The average is more than 100 days on average, and only 2% say that essentially it took them less than 50 days to get back online. Think about the amount of cost, the downtime, the outages, the blown contracts, whatever it is that you've got, and only 2% can do it in 50 days or less. That's crazy. So those are huge, huge numbers. And there was so much more in that report. It's like 60 pages long. And obviously I could spend 2 hours just talking about it, but I highly recommend you go download IBM's breach report for the year. It's really, really an interesting reading, especially if you're in this industry. So those were your breaches of the week. Another crazy week. Were you affected? Let me know. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private, informed, and secure. Take care.